everyone. My name is Denny White, and I am the host of the VIP Ignite Live podcast. And today I have the honor of interviewing the one and only Mr. Mark Victor Hansen. Thank you so much for being here today.
Wow, my pleasure. Are you kidding? I love doing this stuff, and I love helping everybody that's listening and want them to fulfill their life mission, whatever that is, with emotion.
Oh my gosh. And you are a master at helping people do that. I remember when I was really young, one of the first personal development books, if you will, that I ever read was Chicken Soup for the Soul. And when I had the opportunity to meet you face to face, I was like, how this is amazing. So with that thought in mind, you've achieved such remarkable success in your career, and you've had the opportunity to work with the highest level people in so many different industries. So today we're talking to actors, models, and musicians. So the question I have for you is this: what is one thing that all of those successful people have in common that people that are just getting started in the entertainment industry can apply to their lives?
Well, I'm glad that I couldn't be framed a better question if I wrote it myself, and I didn't. So what we've discovered talking to 7 million people traveling in 80 countries is that the people that are a little successful and the people that are a lot successful, the people that are a lot have one ability. They've learned to ASK to GET what they want. And Crystal and I wrote a book called Ask, The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. And we said, look, there's 3 kinds of ask. Ask yourself, ask others, and ask God. And when I was 50 years ago, when I was bankrupt upside down, I said, oh God, I can't even afford to eat. I'm sleeping in a sleeping bag in front of another guy's room. What do I do? And he said, no, what do you want to do? Because what you want to do is you got to have big goals, especially because of the vicissitudes of the industries that you're talking about. You know, one day you're big and one day you're not. So, right, a model makes it and then doesn't make it. A movie star makes it and doesn't make it. Speakers are hired and fired, and speakers are rehired, and they figure out new markets and new ways to market. So luckily I've kept my mind open. And then the subset of that is when you ask yourself, how big do I want to be? Because the goals have got to be big enough to substantially hit your heart and your soul and your being, so that you keep an upward trajectory no matter what you're hit with. And the example of Elon Musk is that the guy wanted to make Tesla work and had to sell 12 houses, sell everything that he owned just to keep it going. I mean, and I've had to do that. So I understand the problem of that. So I can go deeper, but the point is, when I was bankrupt and upside down, God said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to talk to people that care about things that matter, that make a life-changing difference. And boy, that has just worked splendidly, because, you know, I've gotten to speak in 80 countries and had a great time. But if you learn how to ask yourself, what do I really want in my heart of hearts? What is it in my soul? And then write it down, because the spiritual laws, you've got to put it in writing. How big is it that you want to go? What do you want to be in a model case? Do you want to be on the cover of Vogue or Fortune, or what magazines, Bazaar or Esquire, whatever it is that you want, if that is what moves your soul? Or do you want to do TV commercials or movies or, you know, walk-ons, whatever it is that you want to do, it's got to be in writing. Because if I walk up to you and say, tell me your mission, and then detail it, and you can't do it and you don't show it to me. I used to say, everybody in the room here, and there'd be 1,000 or 2,000, show me your goals in writing. And maybe 1 in 1,000 had their written goals with them. You got to write your goals. And some people say, rewrite them every day. Have I answered your question?
Yeah, no, I love that so much. So one of the first things I do when I onboard people into our community is I always have them create a vision board. And I tell them, make your vision board, because people are very visual, and what you see, what you focus on, you'll become. Right. And so I have them create a vision board, and I tell them, like, put your biggest goals on there, like put attainable goals on there as well, but put your biggest goals on there, because on the days where this is amazing, you're going to be like, yeah, and you're going to run faster toward the goal. And like you said, on the days where maybe it's not as exciting because you're not getting booked or you're getting told no or whatever, then you still have that vision in front of you and you know why you're doing it and you keep pushing forward.
Totally correct. I did a whole book and a set of tapes called Visualizing is Realizing. They can get them at Audible, or they can get it online at Amazon, whatever. The point is what you said is exactly correct. What you see is what you get. So if you see yourself succeeding, and by the way, we're all going to have setbacks. We're all going to have detours. We're all going to have upsets. We're all going to have somebody hitting us one way or another, and it'll be a surprise most of the time. But if you've got this big looming goal, like, you know, I want to become one of the world's best speakers. Now, And then I visualized becoming world's best-selling author, and I interviewed the 101 best authors, fiction and nonfiction. And when we interviewed Dr. Canfield, my partners, went to Harvard with Scott Peck. I interviewed Scott, not Jack. He'd been 58 weeks #1 with The Road Less Travel, a great book. And I said, Scott, what is it? He said, I wrote down what I want to do, but you got to do 20 media things a month or 20 in one day. And we whited out his name on New York Times and put in Victor Hansen, Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul. And we put it on the mirrors at our house. Whatever your goal is, you got to put it in the mirror. So when you're doing your makeup or where you're shaving, it goes through the portal of the pupil into the depth of the soul. And the minute you have a feeling nature, Neville says, you got to live in the assumption of the wish fulfilled. You got to be there before you get there. That's why the Apostle Paul said, pray, Christ said, pray as of the thing for which you're praying has been received and you'll have it. Paul said, faith is substance of things hoped for and evidence of things not seen. You got to have the faith, and it's got to be rock hard faith that by the way, I got plenty of people that said, you're not even a good writer. I don't even like your stories. And I don't think they're that good. Even now, I mean, now I get critics because I'm #1. But when you're coming up, you get critics because I could write better than you in 7th grade. One of my 7th grade partner classmates said, and I go, well, go out, write me, and then outsell me. That you'll do it, but go. And they never did, of course.
Yeah, that's all. I love that so much because, again, you'll always have doubters, but the thing is, when it's like planted, it says God gives you the desires of your heart. And I believe that means that God literally plants them in the core of your being so that you'll go out and fulfill them. So I love what you just said right there.
And what you just said is so perfect, because when you put it at the core of your being, that emanates out. Because Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich, which I hope everyone's read multiple times, but because it is really a philosophy of principles and processes. But what Hill said is that you're a radio broadcasting and receiving station, and when you're broadcasting from the core of your heart, people catch it. They go, he or she really believes in themselves. So if they believe in themselves, because self-belief is a front end of all belief.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Never said that before, but that's pretty good.
Yeah, you should write that down. That should be your next book.
Of the day.
You heard it here first, everyone. Awesome. Well, okay. So again, you've interviewed highly successful people and you've given them these principles. What are some key habits and mindsets that the most successful people perform each day that help them get even more successful?
Okay, so last thing you do after you pray at night, push back sleep. And before you go into that controlled state of reverie, you say to yourself, whatever your goal is. Like in my case, I didn't tell anyone, but I wanted to be world's best-selling author. I mean, that's pretty bodacious, pretty bold, pretty out there, a big request to myself, a big request to God, and a big request to others. And then when you wake up in the morning, you're in a hypnopedic state of sleep, and you wake up, before you get out of bed, push back a little bit and just visualize all that's going to happen to you today, and visualize that your life is really clicking, that business is booming, money is coming in, contracts are there, promotions there, you're getting the jobs that you want. In modeling, you're getting all the modeling jobs from whatever the top agency is that you're working with that they have, and you're doing it. And today, the spectrum of models, God bless it, the book that you guys are writing, is 360 degrees. So short people can make it, tall people can make it, plus size people can make it, skinny people can make it, everybody can make it. We're in the first time of fundamental abundance for people being able to make it.
That's awesome. So speaking of finding fame, we are so excited that you are publishing Mike's book, Finding Fame. So when you were reading the book, I know you get a lot of people that want you to work with them. What was it about Finding Fame that made you say, this is a heck yes, I absolutely need to work on this project?
Well, first of all, I've never seen a book like it. I mean, and I've read thousands and thousands of books, and people send me free books, and I go to all the book fairs literally around the world. Now we're invited to another one again in Mexico, but which is amazing to me, right? And they say, well, you come down and talk Guadalajara, of course, yeah. Anyhow, I've never seen a book like yours, so it is unique, and it's a penultimate because you and he are living what you're teaching and preaching and doing, and have done it, and have attracted the audience, and you know what to do, how to do it, and say, hey, look, if you'll do this, you'll get that. And when we wrote 1 Minute Millionaire, we said, you'll make $1 million in 90 days if you do this, 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 and this. And we showed it with a 60-year-old woman that got fired by Perry Como. So it's similar to your thing. And she said, well, I'll be your guinea pig because I can't go back and do anything else. So that's exactly what happened. It was exquisitely exciting. And then we got a lot of people. We made more millionaires, I think, than in a shorter time than anybody. And we'd have 4,000 people a weekend. The point is, that's exactly what you're doing. There are people out there that are praying. You are the answer to their prayer. They're going, how do I become successful? How do I become famous? How do I become what Solomon said, be an influencer of influencers? And they just don't know. They don't have a process. They don't have a thought form. No one's ever said, here's the mindset to get the money set going. And you guys have laid it, I read every word, and laid it out with exquisite eloquence and excellence.
Thank you very much. We're very excited about that. And we're very excited about working on the project with you. We're also excited about a sequel. So Mike is like chomping at the bit to get started on the second book, even though the first book is still in progress. So what excites you about doing a sequel to Finding Fame?
First of all, I'm elated for the question. And for those of you that don't know, a sequel is the second and a prequel is the one before. And obviously when we did Chicken Soup, I write the big, bodacious, outrageous goals. Like I said, I wrote, and remember, I said, you got to figure out what you want and it's got to be put in writing. That's spiritual law. And then you got to visualize to realize it, and then get a team to get your dream. Like she and Mike are a dream team. Team means together and accomplishes miracles. But I wrote down we'd sell $1.5 million in a year and a half, and then the second year we'd sell 5 million, and then we'd sell 10 million a year, and then we'd sell 15 million a year. And first year we sold 1.3 million. Now, what's so mind-blowing is why you got to have a sequel is it in business for those. And by the way, modeling, fame, movies, books, they're all an intellectual property business, an IP business. Anyhow, there's what we call in business an S curve. At the front end, you got to put money in. They got to pay you to learn how to do it. They got to buy that book for $20, which is one of the screamingest values in the world. For $20, they can go make. I read a book. The first book I read in our business was All the Ways to Make $1 Million Writing Books by Dr. Jeffrey Land at Harvard. And I read every word, and it was like 996 pages. So it was like serious, and I highlighted everything I wrote down. I called them, I befriended them. The point is, when you go down, when you start to go up, you go up really fast. But when you go up fast, you also plateau out. So an S curve goes, yep, unless you have the sequel or a prequel to it. And in our case, we did Chicken Soup for the Soul, and then the second one was really Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul. And our publisher said, you guys are one book wonders. This isn't going to work. I got teenagers. They buy CDs, concert tickets, and clothes. Remember, what we've both said on this call is that you're going to have detractors. Yeah. They love, because they're not doing it, they're jealous. And when they're jealous, they're petty. And when they're petty, they're conniving. And when they're conniving, they stab you in the back. Unless they're a politician, then they stab you in the front. Anyhow, we did Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul. We tested it on 12,000 people at Nickelodeon. My daughters at that time were little, and I took them there, and they slimed me, if you know what that means. Anyhow, we came out with Teenage Soul, and Jack and I thought we had 250 perfect stories. I mean, they're all in our minds. We do 7 things. Our highway is just like you've got a highway in your book. It's got curbs, and it's got to cause instantaneous behavioral change. It's got to cause goosebumps, God bumps, chilly bumps. It's got to be inevitable, all those kind of things. And we thought we had it, but the kids said, no, do this. So we just did the 101 stories they wanted. Well, the book sold 19 million that year, right? Wow. And why? Because teenagers have nothing to talk about. People in fame don't know how to do the 90-second elevator pitch, that if you're with the biggest person in the world that can hire a model and you're coming down the elevator in 90 seconds, you've got to be omni. That means all impressive. So you make a dent in their memory that is totally unforgettable in a positive way. And you're really smart. You do something different than anybody else. Like in our speaking business, Joel Weldon bought all the Campbell soup cans and they rewrapped them. Success comes in cans, not cannots, right? If you're in tennis, you sign a tennis ball to everybody and you hand it to them, or you have it printed with your phone number on it. And in my case, well, by the way, we just got one from my friend, Jim Stovall, who's made 100 million in movies. And what he wrote me this great thing. He printed up a $10,000 bill with Teddy Roosevelt on it and said, the book I'm sending you I got to read this. See, it's so good. Whoops, sorry. Anyhow, what it said is, I'm not giving you $10,000 cash, but you've been so good to me. I hope you get $10,000 worth of ideas or more out of my book. And that's really what'll happen, because the book gives compound awareness of when somebody's at their best. And you guys are at the best of the best. And you're sharing it. Anybody who in your industry who doesn't buy the book, you go, what are you doing? Right? Einstein, my teacher's teacher, Bucky Fuller, said, if you keep doing what you're doing and expect new results, you're cuckoo. Well, if you don't read how to become successful, how to be famous, how to have the principles and philosophy of success in this industry, why aren't you doing it? I go out and drink with all the boys at night, or I eat popcorn, or I go to a movie to see how to act better. No, you need to implode so you can explode in your business and be a peak performing person, because life is about, are you fulfilling your destiny? And that's what we wrote in the last book, is that we said, look, everybody's born with a destiny code. And if you go over we got 178 questions there, go over it with your partner, your mastermind partner, your sweetheart, your minister, your priest, rabbi, your guru, whoever it is you got, go through all the questions and get 2 books. So they got one, you got one, go answer those questions. You find out who you really are. Now you are invincible. Now you're indomitable. Now you're going to make yourself into business like you guys are indispensable.
I'm right. That's like a cup of coffee right there, what you just said. That's so I love what we do, because we do give people the key to success. And that's what you do too, Mark. Like, that's what we admire so much about you, is that, like, every time I talk to you, like, there's just this burst of energy that comes forth, because you are so passionate about what you do. And just every person that you invest time in, like, you could tell you're 100% passionate about them. So here's a question I have for you. You have worked, again, with some of the greatest people in the world. Who has inspired you?
I'm inspired on a regular daily basis by everybody. Back when I was bankrupt, I was in New York City, and in the morning on Sunday, I'd go to see Norman Vincent Peale. In the afternoon, I'd see Reverend Ike, who taught me about abundance. He was a Black man with 26 Rolls Royces. And when he died in 2009, his wife calls up, because we became great friends. I mean, I was a rare white guy in an audience of 5,000. Ultimately, we booked him in my company. Look who's talking. But she said, you got to do his biography. Well, it comes out this fall, and it's going to be big, because he's one of the monster success. A guy who's dead is going to be more successful posthumously, which is one of the things he predicted. Sort of like if you've been to Elvis Presley's house in Memphis, and you got to put it on your list and go to St. Jude's, because I help raise a lot of money for St. Jude's, and I love what Danny Thomas and his daughter started. Anyhow, when you go to, he makes 120 million a year just at Graceland, because all of us go there and we buy all the little stuff like Elvis. I was born on Elvis's birthday, so I got Elvis's driver's license right up by $10. And I bought the books on Elvis, and because he became a master showman.
Yeah.
And in your industry, you've got to decide before you can afford it that you're going to become a master showman. You're going to dress different. You're going to talk different. You're going to think different. You're going to be different, but different. You got to be different, better. That's the point. And then you just got to keep getting better and more unusual. And we're in the most exciting times in human history. Now, if you read the news rather than watch my YouTubes or Patrick Bet-David's YouTubes or Dr. Jordan Peterson's or John Lennox, you're going to crash and burn. If you listen to somebody that gives you what my colleague Zig Ziglar and I worked a lot together, gives you what's called a checkup for the neck up. That's what you do. You got to input superior attitude, because that'll give you higher and higher altitude. And what we're seeing is the highest altitude hasn't been reached in any industry. Like only 20 years ago, there's no such thing as a billionaire. And today we got, Forbes says 3,000. I know a lot that aren't on that list, so I'm sure there's 6,000. And that's who, we market to primarily in our business, because it's a lot easier to have somebody with a lot of money give you a little of their money than somebody with no money to give you any money. Is it logical?
Yeah, totally logical. Awesome.
I'm gonna write that down. That's my other quote for the day.
Hey, who knew coming on my podcast, you get all these quotes? That's pretty exciting.
Well, the point is that, ladies and gentlemen, I do a quote every day. And one of the things I'm going to ask you to do is you do a quote, original quote of yours every day. But what does that mean? That means you got to listen to yourself. And what did our friend Socrates says? The unexamined life is not worth living. And his teacher, his scribe was Plato, and Plato said, whoever controls the story controls the world. So when you start writing your quotes and you have great quotes and you're meeting with the person that could hire you, whether it's an agent, a contact, a contract, a company, and I've been blessed to do all that. Like, because our chicken soup of the soul, we had the same kind of scroll on the cover as Campbell's Soup. And people say, how do you do so many books? Well, Campbell's Soup was complaining. Remember, when you have an enemy, you go face the enemy. Well, I faced the enemy, and not only did it work, because you can't own script, but they hired me 2 times. First time to go through China. Now, I've been to China 80 times back when it was capitalistically communistic, but what they wanted the Chinese to do, Chinese have soup every day, every day, every day. All they wanted people to do in China, remember, there's 1,400,000,000, or I think it's actually 2 billion. But the point is, because they persodigitate their numbers. That's a nice, clean word, isn't it?
That's definitely an SAT word.
Yeah, I'm good at that one. Anyhow, Jack and I were testing. We both got over 150,000 words in our vocabulary. The point is that they wanted me to talk the people into buying 1 Camel Soup can per family per week. Well, that was a heck of a contract. But remember, I went and they wanted to say, hey, you can't use our lettering. And we came out with that contract. And then I came out with, I got to do a thing with them, with their artist. The guy that painted their Camel Soup can was Andy Warhol. And we, oh God, the top comedian at the time, Dave, I can't think of his last name. Anyhow, a great writer, friend. I didn't plan on talking about this, but we opened up for Campbell Soup at the Dave Warhol Museum when he died. And it was just like we had 15,000 people there. And it was great fun to talk, that say, look, I've just come back and I think we're going to sell a can of Campbell Soup every family once a week. And then Campbell Soup's sales went up like that. Now, am I a model? No. Am I a spokesperson? Yes. But let's talk to that for a second, because you got it in your book. I think every model ought to start telling themselves that they are going to be a high-paid spokesperson. Why not? The more you got going, the more you got going. In other words, Bob Proctor, who's just passed away, and he and I own 2 companies, but Bobby called me one time. He's flying from Taipei to LA, and at the time I lived in LA Metro in Newport Beach. And he said, hey, you and I are multimillionaires, make $1 million plus every year. I've just written down our new thing, and we trademarked that you got to have MSIs, multiple sources of income. In other words, do your core business 90% and get a lot of money flow, then start your MSIs, multiple sources of other income, because everybody has vicissitudes. Like modeling may pay today, and tomorrow you'll only get paid as a spokesperson. And as a spokesperson, you say, well, wait a second. I know this issue, and this issue. I know how to get over humiliation. I know how to get over rejection. I know how to get over fear. I'll make a tape. I'll put it on Audible, and I'll make another $10,000 a month. Why not?
Yeah.
In other words, what happens is people pigeonhole themselves. I am an engineer.
Yep.
I am a medical doctor. I am bunka dunka dunka do. Well, good for you. But the point is, you got 18 billion brain cells that can't come to work until you make the decision, implode it in the subconscious, makes a provision. And what Christ said is, I am here that you might have a life and have it abundantly. And what did he do? When there's no fish, no food, he feeds 5,000, has 12 baskets left over. I mean, the guy only taught abundance. So some of you said, well, I'm a Christian and poor is godly. Yeah, in the Bible, ain't there.
That's not my Jesus.
No. That guy he had whatever he needed. He needed to pay the taxes. He said, Peter, go out and fish. First fish, gold coin, pay for me and the whole team for the next 2 years.
That's awesome.
And the point is, you and I are here to create, to contribute, be charitable, and you're here to create surplus, but surplus is an inside out job. You got to see it in your mind, back to visualization that you were teaching a second ago, to manifest it outside. Your impression, it gets your expression.
That's awesome. On that note, I could talk to you for like the next 2 days, but I think to be cognizant of your time, if we're going to stop right there, sir. But I want to thank you.
We got to do this again, because this was a blast. I mean, I know. Today, so.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely set up another one. I know that we're going to be launching the book. We're going to be doing parties like throughout the country starting in November for Finding Fame. We can't wait for you to be a part of that. And Please also make sure that you send Crystal our love. We can't wait to see her in
Crystal, your
person
love.
again along with you. So thank you so much for being here and for just sharing your heart. And this was amazing. Thank you so much.
My delight, and my delight, and say hello to Mike.
I absolutely will. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're
Bye-bye.
welcome. Bye. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the VIP Ignite Live podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit subscribe because I'm going to be doing another podcast with Mark. We already just talked about that, but I have so many other amazing guests that are going to really help to elevate your success. So make sure you hit subscribe to the VIP Ignite Live podcast, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye, guys. Thank you.